Thank you for joining me today on The Mighty Dragon. And I have Mr. Kelton Jones here. Welcome. Good
Hello.
day, good morning, good day, or good evening. It's good morning, isn't it? Where you are.
It's morning here. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. How do I intro you? Actor, director, producer, screenwriter, cinematographer. How
Yeah.
would you,
All of the
all of the
above.
above? Great minds, eh? What, what would you say you were at the moment? Actor?
Um, it depends. Well, today it depends on what day it is.
Yeah,
So it depends on the project. But I think of myself generally just as a filmmaker, as
filmmaker.
director, and but
Yes,
certainly a lot of acting goes into that as writing. Right
yes.
now, because of COVID, I'm spending a lot more time editing and writing. And then we're doing a documentary that I'm producing. So
Okay, that
it's
sounds
all
good.
over, really. It just depends on what day.
So are you kind of busy in all of those different roles at any one time, would you say?
Yeah, yeah. Like I'll go from like one day to the next, doing different roles. I actually just did a feature that came out this year that I was on as the actor. I played the dad, and then I ended up working a few days as a makeup artist. So that was a call sheet bingo for me. That was like the one thing I didn't have on my resume was makeup artist. So I was like, "Ah, cool."
Makeup artist. Do you know what? I was thinking makeup artist. I didn't see that. So yeah. So cool, makeup artist. So is this a new area you're going to grow in, or what do you think?
Well, my wife's a makeup artist, so she has all of the gear, and they needed somebody
Yes.
for the day, and I was like, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
do it.
Brilliant. So that's another title to your list here. What would you say is the most creatively fulfilling for you out of all of those different roles?
um, Probably directing, because
Directing.
you're involved in the whole process.
Yes.
So like it starts with working with the script and developing it and casting and building it and shooting it, and then the edit process, and then seeing it in the audience, so like you get that it's sort of a full ride, and it takes like forever to get through that process, but
Yes.
by the end of it, it's really satisfying to sit in the back of the theater and to watch people be affected by something that you created, and sort of ride that emotional wave.
Yeah.
uh, and it's sort of the only time you know whether or not what you did worked.
Do you get much time to write?
um uh,
Screenwriting?
yeah, kind of, yeah, a lot. Writing's tough for me because it's not something I instinctively go to, but I'm fairly
Yes.
proficient at it. So I end up
Yes,
doing
yeah.
it. But that's the
Amazing.
one that has the most procrastination. I'm like, "Oh, I could clean the house," or I
Yeah,
could
I know what
build
you
a
mean
shelf.
about that. We were introduced by Craig Aaron's director that I've interviewed here on The Mighty Dragon, and I would like to see how you started off. Really, you started out in Texas, and you worked your way up to work in the Passion of Christ, Mel Gibson's Passion of Christ. Could you tell us more about your journey to that point, and also about what you did in that film?
Wow, that's covering a lot. So
It's
that's
a
like a
lot, isn't it? We
20-year
could be here
span.
for could you just nail that up in a few sentences? No, no, just give us a rough idea of what
Uh,
your journey was.
well, I grew up, watching movies and going to see films in the drive-in. My
Yeah.
mom had a flower shop in Texas, in this really small town, and the
Okay.
the adjacent wall next to us was a movie theater. And
Yeah.
so whenever I'd come home from school, I'd go to the where she worked, and then I'd spend the afternoon in the movie theater. So like I kind of grew up on movies. And then early on, I got to visit the set of a Sam Peckinpah film, like when I was 7. He did The Wild Bunch. He was phenomenal American director. Did a lot of
Yeah.
westerns and whatnot. But he did a movie called Convoy, and so I was there watching them film that, and I was like, "This is so cool." And then years later, I got to act in a film, and I was like, "Hey, can I help you guys?" And so like I was sort of done with my scene, but I was like so
Yeah.
enthralled by the cranes and all the lights and all the stuff, and I was like, "Can I hold a reflector or help build something?"
Yeah.
And so they ended up hiring me on the crew, And then I finished the rest of that movie, and we built a log cabin, and we had big battle scenes, and like I learned to make it pyrotechnics and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it was
Yeah.
pretty wild. And then
Okay.
that just led into doing a lot of film work and more film work and more film work. And then I was hired on the Passion of Christ to do lighting. So I was originally on as a gaffer, and
Yeah.
then my friend who had brought me on left to go do. Trying to think of the name of the movie now. It was the one with Will Smith and the robot, iRobot. So
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
left to
Yeah.
go be like the visual effects supervisor on that. And so I ended up becoming the visual effects DP for a lot of the stuff that we were shooting for the Passion. So it was really cool. It was a lot of
Yeah.
miniatures. It was a lot of effects, a lot of like blood gags and all sorts of crazy stuff. Because we did all the wounds, we did all of the crazy stuff. That you see.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So that what an experience that was.
Yeah, it was pretty
Sounds
crazy.
amazing. Yeah.
We actually had kind of a funny thing happen when Mel was making the movie. He was really nervous about getting it right, because
Yeah.
he's very very religious, and he takes it all very serious, and he's really trying to do the story justice to his best understanding of it, and he'd done tons of research and whatnot, and
Yeah.
but he was getting a lot of flack in the press from it, and so like he was
Yes.
having a hard time, and we were filming in a parking lot, and we were shooting this 16-foot animatronic Jesus. So it was like an animatronic version of Jim Caviezel on the cross, and we're shooting that last shot of the movie where you're like looking up and you see him on the cross, and the teardrop
Right.
falls down. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we're filming that, and I look over and I see this truck pulled up, and it's a big, huge lorry. It pulls up, and it says GOD on the side. So it's a big red and white truck, and it says GOD on the door, and then across the side of it says GOD in big letters. And I'm like, Mel, God's here. And and he looked over, and he moved the curtain, and he looks over and he sees the truck, and he actually fell off of his chair laughing.
Oh
It
my
was like the
God,
idea
that's
that God
incredible.
would show up to check on him, and he would show up in a huge truck.
That's amazing. Like you wouldn't
Big
put money
tractor
on that, would you? That would have happened. Like that's crazy.
it
Oh
was
my
so
gosh.
it was so random, but
Yeah.
really funny, really funny.
So when you were in Texas, and I do apologize, I didn't realize how like random that question was and how vague that question was. But when you were, sorry, it's been a long year for me. When you were in Texas, would you say there was a big movie like you could progress in your career there, or did you have to move to really, forge ahead in your career?
Well, the town that I lived in was really pretty small. So I had to move to like I
Yeah.
worked in Houston for a while,
Right.
and I worked in Dallas. And in Dallas, they did a lot of shows there. I worked on a kids show called Wishbone for a while, and I worked on Walker Texas Ranger quite a
Yeah.
lot. We would do all the big explosions and stuff. So like whenever they were going to do a big explosion scene, whatever, I'd come in and work with them.
Yeah.
Um, so that was actually a lot of fun. Working with Chuck Norris and all those guys.
Chuck Norris.
It was
Really? Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
it was a pretty neat introduction into the business because
Yes. Oh my
I'd been a
gosh.
huge fan. I'd watched his movies with my dad a lot growing up.
Yes.
It was
What was
cool.
he like to work with?
He was super nice, super nice.
Yeah. Yes. He was. Oh my gosh, how cool is that? That's amazing. I read that you were directing short films and then you did your first feature in 2019. How was that after doing a lot of short films? Was it quite a seamless transition,
um,
or was it quite different and challenging, more challenging?
it was kind of easier, really, in a weird way.
Really? Yeah.
The because I had produced features and I had DP'd features, so I was certainly comfortable in the feature realm because I'd worked primarily in that.
Yeah.
I'd been shooting short films since the '80s, so I've
Yeah.
done tons of that. So moving to a feature, like it's the process is pretty similar because you're still biting it off in little chunks and telling the story and whatnot. the thing that gets complicated with features is that, like, now because you're trying to take it to a distributor later and sell it and whatnot, then you have to have all of this like massive amounts of paperwork, and like, so it just
Mm,
becomes a much more complicated process than,
yes.
so you don't have quite the same amount of like sort of creative freedom that you have with shorts. Like, you have to really plan stuff out.
Right. Okay.
But my business partner, who had written the film Dry Blood, was really brilliant, and he was super super helpful, and the two of us worked together um, really quite well. Like, we had a great synergy. Like, because he would um, uh, like, I was actually DPing part of the film as well, so like I would trade off with the cinematographer because he was actually in the movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
We would take turns filming each other.
Yeah.
But Clint, who'd written the film, he was also the editor, so he was kind of script supervising and make sure that we had the stuff that we need, and then he was checking the dailies at the end of the day, and then he would act. He was the lead in the movie, so it's like
Yeah.
he just didn't sleep during the entire process. So
Oh
I
my
think it was
gosh.
actually a
Yeah.
little harder on him than it
It's
was on
like
me.
major pressure. Like, oh wow. So, what do you think a certain genre is suited to short films, would you say? Is horror a better genre for shorts?
Um, it's hard to say. Like, to me, short films tend to be like they're really good for comedy, and they're really good for sci-fi. Like, they're really
Yeah.
good for concepts, and exploring a concept or an idea,
Yeah.
um, like quick little character studies, or that kind of thing. But you always have to have sort of a bit of a hook, I think, at the end of it, a bit of a twist to make it
Yeah.
pay off. So like, it's almost like a long form commercial in a sense. Like, it's a very
Okay.
but I do a lot of music videos too, so like it's a very similar um, craft to that.
Okay. And would you say that all filmmakers should start out with shorts or and work their way up from there?
I don't know that
Experiment with that?
there's not really any rules to filmmaking. Just
Yeah.
make things. Just do what you're passionate. So if you're passionate about telling a feature and you have the resources to make a feature, make a feature. Because like
Yeah.
it's such a different animal.
Yeah.
Like doing shorts, you think you kind of know what it is, but something about like when you do a feature, like it's so much bigger.
Yeah.
But I think exploring ideas creatively, like to me, making short films is like an artist doing sketches. It's just a way of sort of exploring different ideas or different techniques, or you know just different ways of reaching people.
Yeah. Okay. I must ask you, while I've got you here, about the Bram Stoker Festival in Whitby. As I'm English, I'd be rather interested to hear what happened there. Thank you anyway for sending that clip to me.
I didn't get to go, which I was very sad about. I was actually on
Yeah.
another project when that was happening. I was like, because I
Yeah. Yeah.
was so excited about getting to go.
Yes.
I'd been a total goth kid growing up, and so like
Yeah. Yeah.
the music,
Wow. Yeah.
and I would have really had a great time. But we did end up winning. We won best picture there, and we won best actor with Clint,
Yeah.
um, which we were like, wow, that's freaking cool. Like, we were just
Incredible.
having.
Well done. Oh, wonderful. And I'll share the video that you sent me to the readers of the blog, if that's okay, so they can watch it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, congratulations. So do you have like a huge vampire hanging a statue trophy with your win on it at home, or what did you get for winning that?
Um, I don't know that they sent us anything, actually.
Yeah. Oh, what? That's a bit mean, isn't it?
I think we just got we won. But
It's a shame you didn't get there because they've got the Abbey there is the basis of Carfax Abbey,
oh
where
wow,
Bram Stoker got the idea from.
yeah.
So I haven't seen it either. So I really want. I was going to go this year because they have a festival every year, like a Dracula type festival that you can go to every year. So I was hoping, well, maybe next year now. So it should be pretty interesting. But so congratulations. So did that lead on to anything else with your short film, or was it
Um,
just that festival you were going for?
Well, we actually, that was one of the festivals we were in. We actually won, I don't know, like 30 awards overall.
Oh,
Because we were in
wow.
festivals in Los Angeles and
Yeah.
Toronto, in Australia. Uh, we did one in Ireland, a ton across, Memphis, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. So like we really had a good showing, and it was really well received. People,
Yeah.
especially in the festival environment, they really enjoyed the film.
Oh,
So it was
congratulations. That
an
must
honor.
have been a fantastic feeling. 30 awards. That's incredible. That's an incredible achievement, isn't it? So well done. Um, I wanted to ask you about the character Michael Ryan you played in The Evil Down the Street.
Mhm.
What attracted you to play that role?
Um, I'd read the script early on. Craig had shown it to me pretty early,
Yeah.
and I was really drawn to the idea that sort of I had in my head of like that it even though it was an idea of a possession, that it was really um, kind of exploring what it was like to be in a relationship with somebody who's changing, whether that's through some sort of drug addiction or alcohol addiction or whatever, where like
Yeah.
the person that you know becomes somebody that you don't recognize, and how families can slowly devolve, and the pressure that puts on the kids and on the father and whatnot. And so um, uh, for me, it was sort of always in my head that like what was happening wasn't supernatural, but it was like something that was natural. It was like alcoholism, or it was something that was changing who this person was that I loved, and I didn't know how to help her.
Right.
And kind of going through and thinking like, okay, we're just going to keep everything calm and keep everybody, just keep the peace, and then eventually you get to a point where like you realize that you're in over your head. And I think that really resonated with me, because like, even though it's kind of a fantasy based idea, the supernatural, that it did feel very real and
Yeah.
human grounded, when we were doing it.
Oh, it sounds quite intense sort of role to play. Did you
Yeah.
find it quite emotionally stressful, or can you easily switch off from that?
um in the time, like when you're performing, like you get into the full emotion, but I tend to lean toward the style of acting where like you do the scene and then you're out of it, and you can,
Yeah.
so you can create the character in the moment. Uh,
Okay.
so like I'm
Um,
much more of a Meisner actor than a Strasberg type, where like the Strasberg guys like walk around all day going and you're torturing their castmates and whatnot.
okay, that sounds interesting. I must see that film. That's one of Craig's films I need to see. Um, Also, I read that you'd worked with Robert Zemeckis. I can't say that name properly, and Ice-T. I can say that correctly. Can you tell us more about that?
Ice T I've worked with quite a bit over the years.
Yeah,
I did a movie that he was in back in the '90s that I worked
yeah.
on with my wife. Actually, it was the movie that we got engaged on like 20 years ago. But later, I ended up working with him again because I shot a documentary that he was the executive producer for, and then it was a film called Iceberg Slim: Portrait of a Pimp, which was um, uh, actually a really touching documentary about the guy who had written these series of books that became sort of the basis for what became hip hop.
All right.
He sort of brought this culture into the literary world, and he's one of the most kind of important American writers that most people aren't aware of unless you're part of that culture. Um,
Okay.
it's a really fascinating story.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's interesting.
so that was a really cool project. It's actually where Ice T took his name from, and Ice Cube took his name was from Iceberg.
Right. Okay.
Um, and then I did like I've done a lot of stuff with Body Count, which is Ice T's heavy metal band. So I've shot
Okay.
their videos and stuff. So they're just super cool guys. And then with Robert, he had seen a film that I had shot and produced. and he liked how it was shot. And his wife hired me to be the cinematographer for a documentary that she did. And so we actually flew around the country, and my son did sound on it. And we would fly in her private jet. We would fly to Texas. So
Yeah.
we drive there in the morning, fly to Texas, shoot an interview, have margaritas, fly home.
That sounds good.
It's like
Day's work. Sounds good.
but she's really a brilliant filmmaker named Leslie Zemeckis. She
Right.
did a really interesting documentary about conjoined twins.
Oh,
It's from
right.
the Todd Browning's movie Freaks.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
the twin girls from that, and the movie that we did was about a tiger trainer named Mabel Stark, who was like one of the first tiger. She was the first female tiger trainer. Not just like somebody who was in the ring, but actually like trained them.
Okay.
So it was a really interesting historical.
This is not like what was that guy? Oh my God, I've forgotten his name now. That crazy guy who was on Netflix.
The Tiger King. Very
Yeah.
different. Very different.
Do you know what? It just opened my eyes to a world I didn't even know existed, because the regulations there are so different from anything that we have over here. And I was just like, my God, that's just mental. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, that whole documentary was just insane. So yeah, so I presume that other one was completely different to that.
It's a very different group of people. Like the people that we were interviewing were, they had been doing, in their families, they had been animal training, and like they
Yeah,
they really love their animals. Like they really take amazing care of them. The veterinary care and the
yeah,
love and the things that these people have for their animals is remarkable. And it's very different than like the exploitive stuff that you saw in
yes, yeah,
it's kind of a different world, those guys were like, meth heads and cult
yeah,
leaders and whatnot. It was a
yeah.
completely different animal. Very,
Yeah, totally. That's so interesting reading your bio on IMDb to see everything that you worked on. You're just such an all-round sort of filmmaker, aren't you? It's kind of done everything, really, haven't you?
yeah, I'm just a geek. I'm just like really like film. I like everything about it. I love shooting miniatures. I love doing effects. I love
Yeah.
writing, like all of it. It's just like it's so much fun, and I can't pick one. It's
Yes.
a buffet of
That's
coolness. It's like everything you do on the set is cool.
Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting as well that your whole family, I like that as well, like your wife and your kids and that. God, is there a big clash of egos here, or is it just all quite a happy environment with everyone just chipping in and
We work together quite a lot, actually.
yeah,
It's pretty cool. My wife and son just did a project with Hans Zimmer, which was super cool. My son Zeke is a musician, and you can see all of
yeah,
his, like
yes,
so he
yeah, I
does
was
a
going to
lot of
say that's so impressive.
he did the score for the short film that we got into Cannes this year, and then I wrote
Oh,
it and
wow.
produced it. My wife directed it.
Yeah.
Um, and then my son Declan's amazing actor, writer, singer, whatnot. So like I don't know, we're just dorks. We
Do you know
just,
what? It's amazing. I think it's amazing you can work with your family like that. I think if me and my husband and my daughter worked together, we'd end up killing each other. But, bodies under the patio job. But I think that's amazing. So it's very impressive. Guitars hang in there. Is that a piano as well in
yes.
the back?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you know, so cool. I wanted to ask you too about you're a mentor to other filmmakers. Um, how do you do that, and what would you most like those mentees to take from you, from your experience?
Well, I have like some amazing mentors in my environment. Like one of my dearest friends is Sean Cunningham, who directed Friday the 13th, the
Yeah,
original, and
amazing.
House and Deep Star Six, and
Yeah,
like all of these like really great films from the 80s and onward. And he's a really brilliant producer and storyteller, and you know, it's funny, like people think of him as being, you know, a horror guy, but he's, you know, he came from theater. He was directing stages, like Broadway shows when they go on tour, and like he's actually a really brilliant storyteller and really
Yeah.
director, and he's interested in a huge array of films. And so we talk quite a bit about directing and about acting and about you know this kind of stuff. But he's really kind of helped guide me in a lot of stuff that I've been doing. And then I've been studying with Joanne Barron, who's a brilliant Meisner teacher. I've been studying with Mark Travis, who trains like, you know, Academy Award-winning directors on how to work with actors and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I've been really, really fortunate to work with just brilliant people. You know, right now I'm studying with Lisa Malilo, who I actually worked with on Walker, Texas Ranger. Yeah,
Okay.
years ago, whatever. Like, so it's sort of all coming back around. But so it's really important, I think, for any artist or craftsperson to find somebody who will mentor you and will share their knowledge and their love of the craft with you, and then it's your responsibility to carry that on to the next generation of filmmakers. So I work
Okay.
with a young actors theater camp, and I teach you know, kids like 8 to 18 how to make films. That was actually the project that we got into Cannes was with the acting camp. And then any filmmaker that I've met, that I've worked with, like I'm always like, you know, what can I do to help you advice wise, or, you know, who can I introduce you to, or, you know, how can I encourage you to make the best story that you can make, you know,
Yeah.
and to tell your story and to trust your instincts and whatnot. And so I think, you know, for me, I love movies and I want to be able to watch great movies for the rest of my life. So if I can influence people to make great movies that I can see later, that's great. You know?
Yeah. When you say you like to watch great movies, what great movies do you like to watch? What are your favorites?
Oh, there's so many.
Another vague question. Tonight is a vague question. I do apologize.
You know, it's really hard to say because there's so many out there. I mean, there's so many just fantastic films, and there's fantastic television on right now. I just watched a Russian series called to the Lake. That was actually really cool. But
Really,
you know,
to
Queen's
the
Gambit
lake?
is fantastic too. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've not seen that yet.
Oh, it's so good, so good.
Yeah,
But I really like, you know, well written, character driven stories. I love independent films. You know, I go to Sundance
yeah,
when I can. And like I love seeing the voices of, you know, especially like female directors, the ones that are doing their own stories that aren't like um, just trying to copy what they see in the movies, but that they're really like taking the medium and expressing themselves, you know, and seeing
yeah,
people from different cultures telling the story. That's their story, that's their culture, that's their view of the world, whatnot.
yes,
And to me, that's brilliant. You know, I just love seeing people express in that way. And so like there's a lot of things I've seen that was really great. Me, Earl and the Dying Girl was really fun. I don't know if you've seen that, but I,
no, there's so much I need to see. I've got to see The Undoing. We're still finishing off The Sopranos. We've had a big batch load. I've never seen The Sopranos, and we're on the last few episodes. Incredible. How did I miss that for years? That's just crazy.
really, you can't go wrong with anything that HBO does. Like the
Yeah,
HBO series are fantastic.
yes, yeah,
Writing, acting, and production value.
yeah. I must admit, I'm looking forward to Cobra Kai, the next one.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I was an old fan of William Zabka back in the heyday. And some things never leave you, do they? But yeah, I'm looking forward to that next year. There's so many great films next year, like the Bond film that was supposed to be out this year, and all of them. That I think there's a Mission Impossible. Oh, and Top Gun as well, isn't there, coming out?
Oh yeah.
So
Wow.
2021. So yeah. Um, you were in 3 films this year, I saw on IMDb. Um, how has this year been for you, seeing obviously with the pandemic and everything, as a filmmaker, has it been super tough or okay? Have you adapted well?
Well, most of the films that have come out this year were films that were done, you know, in the year or the year before. You know, so
Yeah, yeah,
it takes a while to get through the post process,
Yes.
and then to get distribution and get released and
Yeah.
whatnot. Especially in the indie film world, there's a bit of a delay for that. But as far as this year, I was in an Apple iPhone commercial for the iPhone 12, which was actually a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah.
uh,
Did you get an iPhone as well? Did they say,
yeah.
take some of our products? Yes.
I would love that. I would be like, give me that phone, give me all the phones. Uh, it was very cool though.
Yeah.
I was in a Tame Impala video, so it was kind of fun. But this year's mainly been fairly quiet. Like last year, I did quite a lot. Like I was in a Shakespeare in the Park. We did King Lear,
Oh, did you? Wow.
so that was a lot of fun.
Was that a
Um,
socially distanced King Lear?
no, this was last year, so this was
Oh,
before
okay.
all of this craziness.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, that's sort of the saddest part of all of this is that it's really been just devastating to live theater, and
Yes.
music, because there's something about that communal experience. Television and film, like they're still managing to continue to do their craft and whatnot, but these people that have dedicated their lives to doing Broadway and uh,
Yeah.
it's so
Oh,
hard to get to that point to be able to perform at that level, and
yeah,
to have that just taken away from you for a year is just devastating.
absolutely. Yeah. I wonder how much of this will recover for next year, you know?
Yeah, I think the venues, are going to have a really hard time. Like a lot of the small stages, around the area where I live, there's tons of these cool little 99-seat theaters,
Mm,
and I don't know how many of those are going to survive.
yeah.
But I feel like when we can come back, and people are going to be so hungry for that communal experience,
Yeah.
that I think that there's probably going to be a huge renaissance in
Yes.
music and live theater
Yeah.
performance in general. I think I'm hoping anyway. but,
Yeah.
but so
Absolutely.
we're all just working on developing our craft as much as we can at home, so that when it comes back, we're ready.
Yeah.
Actually,
Absolutely.
I just submitted. So
Uh,
hopefully there'll be an audience for that.
Well, one of the questions I have for you here, and I'm wondering if there is a genre that you've not been in, but is there a genre that you haven't worked in that you'd like to?
Don't think so.
Why am I not surprised by that answer?
I cast a wide net, so like really, I'm just a big kid. I'm just playing, so like I always like seek out the things that I want to do. So like
Yes.
going and doing I was in an action film with this Russian supermodel directed, where she like ends up like breaking my neck, which is like amazing. It's like so much fun. That was one of the ones that came out this year, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm in the trailer, actually. I'm in the trailer getting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, so that was a blast. Sci-fi. I would definitely love to do a lot more sci-fi.
yeah.
Uh, horrors. Really fun doing that. But I was just in a Lifetime movie. As like the dad or whatever. Probably rom-coms. Like that's something
Yeah.
I haven't done. That would be. Uh,
Okay.
Bizarre kind of. It'd be
Yeah.
fun to explore like how to really make that work, but
Yeah.
uh yeah, I don't like all the fun things, if there's spaceships and explosions, like I'm all about it, like
Yeah.
it's
Sounds sign you up for that. Um, okay, we're down to our last few questions, and as Christmas is approaching, is there a favorite Christmas film of yours that you have to see, or not
uh,
really?
there's so many. There's just so many great films. Rare Exports was brilliant. Like there's so many, like Gremlins, like the old school, like
Oh, Gremlins, yeah.
um I got to see my friend John actually gave us tickets to see a screening of It's a Wonderful Life at the
Oh, wow.
where they screened the like a restored black and white 35 millimeter print of the film, at
Oh,
the amazing theater that they had, and then they had like the surviving cast members and people come up and talk about it and whatnot. It was really an incredible experience, but it was I'd always kind of saw that film as being a little bit sentimental, and you know, like, because I'd seen it every year on TV growing up and whatnot, and I didn't realize that they actually cut a lot of that film out of the TV version. Like,
Really?
there's a lot of scenes in there that give a lot of context to the bigger story that they were telling, and seeing the movie in its entirety, I got a whole new appreciation for it. I'm like, this is really a brilliant film, and it
Oh,
was really an interesting sort of warning about society in general, of like what happens if we don't you know, take care of each other, and we let people accumulate too much wealth at the expense of, you know, the working class. Yeah. So
yeah.
it was really like, it was a very kind of powerful, you know, progressive filmmaking.
I'll actually be doing a podcast next week about that film with a friend of mine who we're fans of that film. And I wondered why it had crashed really. It was it was post-war, wasn't it? Post World War II, and probably one of James Stewart's first films after coming back from the war. And I couldn't believe that it just didn't do that well when it was released back in those days. And it just grew to be something that we know now to be such a classic.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Frank Capra too, a phenomenal director,
Yeah,
and they never worked together after that film, which was surprising. And I think part of it was because, you know, the film wasn't as well received. I'd read one thing that they didn't secure the copyright properly for that, and so
okay,
the film became public domain. And because it was public domain, the television networks could show it for free. So here in the States, they
right,
every year they would show that film, because you had a movie with a famous director and a famous actor that they could show and everybody would watch. And it sort of became a classic by default
right,
because people
okay.
were watching it.
Yeah,
But they, like I said, they would shorten it. You know, they would cut out scenes to get the runtime down to allow for commercials and whatnot. And so they kind of cut out a lot of the more kind of political aspects of the film, and
right,
so they really sort of cut like the intent, because they came back, you know, Capra and Stewart had just come back from fighting, you know, fascism, you know, so like they were like,
mm,
hey, we, you know,
yeah,
they were really concerned about the future of the country, because the country was really gearing up into this new industrialization and whatnot.
yeah,
And so they were concerned about the direction that it was headed in. And so like they tried to make something that was gonna kind of help society along, you know, which I thought was interesting.
right. Yeah, I think that on some of the trivia I read, that the old man Gower that he worked for as a kid, who had accidentally changed the poison, the tablets into poison. Oh, that scene. The actor was actually drunk in that episode because he was so nervous about what he had to do by hitting the child. And that was real blood on that kid's face. I
Wow.
don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but he did seem drunk, that guy, to be fair. But it was one of the worst things he's had to do on screen. I read that. Yeah. That
Wow.
actor. I think there's so many stories coming out of that film. Yeah, can you imagine getting away with that now? Oh, just turn out drunk and slap a child around, Like, can you imagine that?
Let me get drunk real quick so I can, you know, effectively crap out of the poor kid. I would
Yeah.
think that'd make it worse, because
Yeah.
then you can judge how hard you're swinging.
Yeah. Oh, but I read too that it was James Stewart's most favorite film of his that he'd been in, which I thought was pretty cool, seeing how many great films he'd been in, all the Hitchcock ones and all of that, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So just finally, what does 2021 hold for you?
Oh, it's so hard to tell. Probably more of the same. A lot of it. I mean, it's you know, I've got a lot of projects that I'm working on. Instead, I'm doing a documentary that I'm producing and shooting. Um, uh, uh, Hopefully, you know, getting a chance to do some theater. I just submitted a play to an off Broadway festival that Samuel French puts on.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. Hopefully, you know, making a feature. I'm looking at a lot of scripts right now, and working on a lot of projects. So we'll see. You know, I never know what's going to happen until it happens. A lot of times, you know. So
Yeah. So it's kind of just see what happens and go for it.
you know, we just keep working on getting better at whatever it is we do.
Yeah.
In downtime, and then when we get a call, we're kind of, you know, like firemen. You know, we got to rush in and go do it.
Oh, superb. Well, may I wish you all the best for next year. and also wish you a very happy Christmas to you and your family. And thank you for being the last interview on the Mighty Dragon in 2020.
Yes, thanks for letting me, make it in for
Thank
the
you.
Christmas special.
Thank you so
Happy
much.
holidays.
Thank you to Kelton for that interview, and I'll see you all in 2021. Happy Christmas, everyone.